Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Marketing 101 webinar with Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Service. I'm hoping everyone can hear us on the phone. If there's any issues, you'll see on your screens on the right-hand side, there's a section where you can type in questions. So if there are any issues with sound or anything, please feel free to type that in now so we can be aware of that. My name is Kimberly Weiner. I'm the Director of Development for the Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Service. I'm very excited that we have such a big group today and have two great speakers that we're very excited to have with us. And the MVLS works very closely with both of our speakers, and we're very thankful for their time and being here today. So we're going to jump right into things right now. And first, just some quick introductions. Would like to welcome Andrea Martin and Rebecca Teaff. And I'll start with Andrea, and Andrea is with Andrea D. Martin Consulting, LLC. She brings 15 plus years experience in communications, public relations, and marketing, working with various industries, including MVLS. And we're also proud to have Andrea on our team as our communications consultant for the organization. Andrea specializes in media relations, integrated communications, copywriting, influencer engagement, thought leadership, and that's just to name a few. So we're very excited to have Andrea on board with us today. Also excited to introduce Rebecca Teaff. She is the Chief Creative Officer and founder of Redstart Creative. Redstart Creative was established in 2009 and with a mission to create clear communications for those who drive a positive change in the world. And her and her firm specialize in print design, digital design, marketing consultations, branding, and social media, to name a few as well. So thank you both for being with us today, and I'm going to turn it over to you. And again, if you have any questions, everyone on the line is muted. Please type them in on the screen, and after the presentation is concluded, we will follow up with those questions with our speakers. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you guys so much for coming in. I'm going to do two reminders I always do at the beginning of a webinar. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb and close your email, because I know those of you on your computers probably have your email open in another window. So we have lots of content we're going to go over today. So give us your focus, and we promise you will not be disappointed. We will also make available to you the presentation after the class. So take notes if that is what works for you, but don't worry about writing everything down. So I'm going to jump through. Oh, can you click on the PDF? And then, there we go. Okay, so you heard about all these great things about us, and you can read about in the presentation. So we're going to divide this up today. We're going to talk about how to define your target audience. Andrea will do that. I'm going to talk about branding and digital marketing, and then Andrea's going to wrap it up with public relations and thought leadership.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Kim, for the introduction. Again, I'm Andrea Martin. And I've had the privilege of working with MVLS for the past, 3.5 years now. And so I manage a lot of their external communications and media relations. So that's the perspective that I'm bringing to the conversation today. And before we get into all of the nitty-gritty, juicy stuff, one of the places that I like to start whenever you're building a public relations, marketing communications program, and I know Rebecca would probably echo what I'm saying, is starting with target audiences, right? It's really the key place. You need to be able to personalize, customize, make your content relatable to the people that you're trying to reach, right? So that are the folks that are key to your audience. So as we get into this, you'll see stakeholders and key audiences are really a part of what public relations is all about. So what is PR? It's a strategic communication process that really builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations, companies, or brands, and their key stakeholders. So stakeholders in this instance is also your target audiences. So internally, they can be staff, board members, they can be volunteers, externally, the general public, your clients, any other community organizations that are important for your work. Perhaps judges are another key audience that you're trying to reach. One thing to keep in mind as we go through this, media, a lot of times I work with organizations and they say, okay, well, media, they're a target audience for us. And really they're a way to reach your target audience, right? They're a channel. So keep that in mind too, and we keep that in mind a lot for the work that I'm doing with MVLS. You know, we have really two primary audiences. One, client, so it's our, you know, low-income Marylanders who need our services, and then it's our attorneys, right? So our volunteers that we try to reach. So it's important to say, okay, we have a new program launching, or we have a new service launching. How do we make that relatable and customized to clients? How do we make it customized to attorneys and attorneys who want to do pro bono? So keep that in mind. You could have one piece of news, but tailor it differently for your target audiences. There's a lot we could do with target audiences, and I know we only have an hour and lots of great content. So just from a very, 50,000-foot view, we have our target audiences, which I said are very important, so keep that in mind. And I like to break them into three different categories: primary, secondary, tertiary. Again, we're going to personalize the message, and we're going to make those messages relatable. So as you look at the core, so either your core, this is your core audience, right? Ideal targets for your services. They will definitely utilize what you're offering them. You have secondary. So these may be consumers, maybe they're clients who may want to use your services or join your organization, buy your products, but they need a little nudge. So maybe there's a tipping point. Maybe there's a trigger moment that happens in their life where you want to stay top of mind with them, but you know they might not need your services right away, but maybe in 6 months, a year, they may need to reach out to you. Maybe you offer something to them, right? Maybe you offer them a free consultation, you offer them additional education, or you send them some collateral materials. You stay top of mind to that audience, right? And then you have the tertiary, right? They're also kind of a wait and see audience, but they're really more on the outside. And as we talk about, as we talk about target audiences, that's a great segue into branding as well, because you want to make sure your branding is also being communicated, it's developed, it's being communicated for your target audiences. Or Rebecca?
That's a perfect segue, because I think there's a lot of confusion around branding, and I think knowing who your audiences are is key to branding. And so we talked about some broad themes. I'm going to talk generally about branding, and then I'm actually going to get into some tactical things. So the next batch of slides I'm going to go through pretty quickly, and then Andrea is going to bring it all back together at the end. So branding is the marketing practice of creating a name, symbol, or design that identifies and differentiates a product from other products. So really important to understand that. And so branding, it aims to establish a significant and differentiated presence in the market that attracts and retains loyal customers. So again, those loyal customers, those are your audiences that Andrea was talking about. You want to figure out how to reach them with your branding. This is one of my favorite illustrations. This is your brand, this great big circle. Then there's your brand identity, and then there's your logo, which is part of it. And I think it's really important is your brand is the whole representation of your organization. Again, all about that relationship with your target audience or your client. So jumping into a logo, which is a smaller part of your brand, it's a flag, a signature, an echelon, a street sign. It does not sell directly. It identifies. I think that's really important. It doesn't sell directly. It's rarely a description, and it gets meaning from kind of the quality and the culture of what it symbolizes, not the other way around. So I've broken this lofty description into some bullet points, what it does and what it doesn't do. So your logo will identify who you are, your name. It gets its meaning from the organization around it. It represents a feeling, a culture, and it gives tangible to the intangible ideas. And it also is a very close and personal representation of the organization. So as you guys are talking about being founders of an organization, it should feel closely connected to you, but also resonate with your audience. What is not the purpose of a logo? It doesn't sell. It rarely describes an organization. And it won't function right away as what you intended it to do. It requires the other branding work around it to make it effective. So just looking at a couple of, if you think of a couple of samples, if you think of Apple, you think of Under Armour, you think of Target. If you saw those logos, without the commercials, without the store experiences, you would not understand who they were and what they did, and it's because of all of the elements around them. So when you're jumping into a logo, if you are, looking at your current one or another one, there's a couple of about 5 traits that we like to look at to make sure for a logo. So a logo can have lots of elements, but it still needs to be simple and easy to absorb. So if you look at this is a balanced logo. It has a lot of elements. It's got text. It has a child reading a book. It has buildings. The buildings have details on it, but it's simplified enough that you can still get the hierarchy of the logo. You read the title, then you look at the image, and it's balanced. So it's very, very important to make sure, even if you have a lot of elements, that it's simple and easy to read. A logo should be memorable. It should really make an impact with its type and imagery. So this is a project we rebranded for South Baltimore Learning Center, and it's a very impactful logo. It's got some great colors, some great imagery, balanced type. So again, that's a logo that people are going to remember. Timeless. A logo should be made to stand the test of time. Does it still work in 5, 10, 50 years? And I don't have in this presentation because we're going through pretty quickly, but think of some other logos that have stood the test of time. UPS, CBS TV, the London Underground. I mean, these are logos that have stood the test of time for 40, 50 years because they have these simple traits. Again, here you have a symbol. This is an example of a refresh we did for somebody. They had a gradient in it. They had a lot of extra lines in it, and they had some really overly modern text. We simplified the symbol and we gave it some clean and easy type to read. And then again, this is going to give this logo longevity. Versatile. So I'm old school. A logo should work on your computer. It should be able to work in print, and it should also be able to work in black and white. One of the most important things to tell if a logo is balanced and working is to see if it works in black and white. Traits of an effective logo, appropriate. So I think this is really important. So does it make sense for its audience? So a professional logo can still be playful. So if you look at this one, we did this, the Association of Fundraising Professionals the local group had a welcome party for the international conference that was in town. So we had a lot of fun with talking about Baltimore, and we called the party Charms of the City. So we put a lot of fun, kitschy things in there. But again, it was appropriate to the event. It was a fun, welcome event. We're happy you're in our city. So this is your homework to take with you. There is, if you're online, this is in the handout section, but this is a way to go ahead and evaluate your current logo, and to evaluate it by the 5 traits. Its professionalism, does it reflect your personality, and does it reflect your plan? So you guys can take this with you, do the evaluation and do the math, and then on this next slide, I have a little grading curve. So you can give yourself a grade, and if you're less than 30, you should consider updating, and if you're less than 20, you should consider redesigning. So this is a really helpful exercise to go ahead and grade yourself. So we talked about logo, we talked about branding, we talked about target audiences. How does this all come together with the execution and actually communicating to people? So what we recommend with digital marketing is your website, your social media, and your email should all work together in a cohesive strategy. And this is what at Redstart we recommend to our clients. So social posting 3 to 4 times a week and consistent audience engagement. 1 to 2 new pieces of content added to your website each month. And I'll tell you, it doesn't have to be complicated to add that content. A monthly or an every other month email linking back to your website content or your social posts. Very basic digital strategy. It is much more effective. Studies have shown we've piloted just doing social media and then incorporating it with an email newsletter and website content, and it's much more effective when you integrate them. So content for your website, one of the best things you can do, repurpose existing content that you have. So you can think about, you might be producing documents, content. Can you repurpose that to go ahead? So could you do an infographic? One of the things we do for MBLS is they have statistics, and we go ahead and we create an infographic for their annual report each year. That can also be used individually across social media. It can also be posted on the website as content. Curating content. This is a great way to show you are a content, you're a thought leader. Curating content from other websites. So be paying attention to articles within your industry, whether it is, across the legal industry or if it's in a specific type of law. Go ahead and read that article, absorb it, give it 100 or 200 words of digesting your thoughts on that, and you can post that on your website. Now, a lot of people think blog is a dirty word. You can call it blog, you can call it news, you can call it stories. What it is it's a way to add content to your website. So if you don't want to call it a blog, that's fine. You can call it news, you could call it thought leadership, you could call it whatever you would like. But that's a great way to post new content on your website using keywords of what you're talking about. You can also ask authors of these articles to guest post on your website and share information. Then you can tag them in that post, and that can work really well. But keep an eye out for what are the topics or current events that are relevant to what you are doing. Also, employee-generated content. So are you writing content for a case that you're working on and you're doing research and you're stumbling across something? You could repurpose that. Perhaps have you done a white paper? Have you done a case study? All of that can be repurposed. And so again, the key with you're looking at employee content is get the information out of people's heads and get that onto your site. You could do a video or a voice interview. So there's ample room for that content. Once you have that content, you can go ahead and you can repurpose. We're doing okay on time, right? Okay, good. So, because I love talking about social media because I think there's no need to overthink it when you first start. Pick 1 to 2 platforms and focus on creating great and consistent content for those platforms. Determine, again, back to that target audience, where are they? Where are they spending their time? And that's really important to decide and to look at what they're doing. So it might be you decide to post on Facebook for one audience and Twitter for another audience, and then those are the 2 channels that you're going to do. Set aside time to work on them. Don't spread yourself too thin. Do not jump in and try to do 4 social media platforms at once. Go ahead, secure your channels, get your name, but really focus on doing 1 to 2 really well and consistently with great content, and then work on expanding to the other platforms. Keep in mind your visual brand. So we talked about that branding and that logo. So stay consistent with your brand guidelines. Keep consistent color and choose the same avatar, which is that little icon across all platforms so people are recognizing you. So post strategy. So based upon, you're going to think about your goals and your audience, and you're going to go ahead and where are you going to post? So you want to decide the platforms you're going to post, how often and what times of day. And so typically we like to say, as far as frequency, again, 2 to 3 times or 3 to 4 times a week is a great place to start. And times, you can usually do like 8, noon, and 8 p.m. You can schedule within Facebook, and then see how it does. And see how, it might be for whatever reason your audience really is hopping on at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or it might be that they are on at 10 o'clock at night, and you can schedule those posts accordingly. So a couple of best practices. Keep it simple. So you want to come up with content categories or content posts. So that's just themes. So it could be industry news. It could be legal changes coming up that could affect your clients, and it could be behind the scenes. So for today, for example, I posted a picture of us here at the webinar. I posted it on Instagram because people love seeing behind the scenes. We will post articles telling you how to do 5 tips to make your website better, and that will get less views than talking about Dominic, who is our digital creative director, who does parkour. So you need to figure out what it is your audience likes. Post consistently, daily or based upon your frequency calendar. Create compelling visuals, and we have a couple of tools in here that are sharing visuals. There are tools you can use on your phone, and there are tools you can use on the computer to go ahead and create very quick and easy graphics. These are for people that are not designers, so they're very easy to use. Schedule a minimum of an hour a week to review content, posting and responding, and writing new content. Again, you want to be consistent, you want to be engaging with your audience, and you want to have quality content. So when you're creating a calendar, so we talked about how am I supposed to put this together? So build a list of categories that you can use. So again, behind the scenes, industry related news, curate a list of ideas related to your organization or goals, ask other people in your industry for ideas, ask people on your team. It can be a collaborative process. We love using Google Docs. We use Google Sheets. It's a great tool. It's free to go ahead and create a content calendar. And this just shows you behavior on social. So people like video clips, responding to questions, joining conversations, talking about timely events. That's your top half there, even using GIFs. So that's what people like. So that's all about engaging. And there have been, how many people have heard about the changes that are happening with Facebook? Some people have, some people haven't. It's all about your website, your social media is to be talking about relevant content that's engaging your audience. And that's as simple as you can put it. So if it's something that your audience wants to hear or needs to know about, that's a great place to start. Be authentic, be consistent, and be relatable. Again, to work on developing your voice. So think about who your audience is and what voice that they want to hear. So that is social, and I'm going to do a quick little blip on email marketing to talk about that. I know this is a lot of information. We're going really quickly. So we talked about content on your website. We talked about content on social, and now we're talking about email. So email does not, an email newsletter does not need to be complicated. It really allows people to access you on a regular basis. They can come to expect it, and it's a digest of what you have been doing. So you want to be strategic. You can offer free content. It's a great way to get people to sign up for your email newsletter. Content is king, again. Keep it interesting and informative. Don't do a long email. Don't do a long email with 5 long articles. Do a short little snippet, link back to your website with that content so people can easily scan it. Then what's great about that, you can see who clicked on it and did they go back to your website to read it. We really love, if you don't have an email program, MailChimp is a great program to start with. It has really good analytics, and it's also free up to 2,000 people on your email list. And then it has rates comparable to all of the other emails out there. Very easy template builders, so that's a great tool. Let's see. So content and subject lines. Again, keep your content simple. Curate it from what you have. So pick one main article. Pick a blog or a news article you wrote the previous month. Make that your main point, and then go ahead and put some supporting articles. Is there an event? Was there a really engaging conversation on social? Link people back to your social page to read more about it. Maybe a case study of something that you've done or something like that. And really, the email is really to deepen the relationship with your audience. So get a great subject line, we'll open it, use your voice, whatever that is, whatever you decide that, and deliver really great quality content. That is what is going to engage people and have them read. Quick thing on subject lines, don't use salesy or overused words. Use localization and personalization, use different subject lines, keep the subject lines very short, and don't do too many promo emails. Again, this is information you are giving to your audience. You're building that relationship. It's a really great tool for audience and client cultivation. A little more on call to action. Again, actionable language. What do you want them to be? It could be, we sent one actually yesterday. There are some new privacy laws that are affecting the EU. So you all probably have gotten a million notifications from any website you have ever gone to. So we put together a little blip letting our clients know, hey, here's what this means. We also put in the theme email, Google Analytics is changing a little bit. And there you have to pick how far back you want to change your analytics. So again, that's another spot that we went ahead, we are giving that information to our clients, and we said, urgent, read this and check on your analytics. And personalizing your call to action is really great for different audiences. Not to get too complicated, but when you are in your email program, you can have different lists based upon your different audiences. You can do A/B testing, so you can test one email against another one. There's a lot that you can do. But again, I think getting started with that minimum of one new piece of content a month, one social media channel with 3 to 4 times a week, and an email newsletter once a month or once every other month is a really great way just to get your digital baseline. And again, when you look at, there's my favorite for MailChimp. Again, they're getting good open rates. So, 25%, 30%, but it has a really good return on investment. And you can look at your click-throughs, which means what are people clicking through? So you can see, maybe you thought this industry piece of news was really very important, and it turned out nobody clicked on it. So that's information for the next email you sent that may not be as much interest to your audience as you thought. So again, when you get into those analytics, you can learn quite a bit. All right, that's digital in a nutshell.
Thank you, Rebecca. This is Andrea again for everyone who's on the phone. We are going to be talking about traditional PR, an important part of the marketing mix. So a lot of the work that Rebecca and I do is very complementary, right? And we always recommend an integrated approach, right? So you have a little bit of the marketing side, you have the foundation set up, you have your brand, you have your website, you have your email, you have your social. Great. What's another way that you can build brand awareness? It's through traditional PR. So does everyone know, just a quick show of hands here in the room, the difference between advertising and public relations? Do you guys know the difference? Okay, great. Good. I'm so glad I put that bullet in here. So advertising, think of it this way. It's something you pay for, right? You pay as a law firm for this beautiful glossy ad. You control the images, you control the message, you control the call to action, which is the piece of information that you want people to do, right? You want them to go to your website to learn more. You want them to call you to, use your services. So you control all of that, and your audience will more than likely see it as something that's coming directly from you, right? So it's great. It's an important piece of marketing. Earned media, when I say earned media, you earn it, right? You achieved it. So think of it as telling a great story. You have maybe it's a new product that you're launching or a new service. You announce it, you share it with the Baltimore Business Journal or the Daily Record, and they say, hey, this is pretty cool. I want to write about it. So you immediately have third-party credibility, right? You've already made it past the gatekeeper, the editor of the newspaper saying, yes, we think that this is a pretty cool program. We need to announce it to our readers. So that's where earned media comes in. You're not paying for it, so there's some risks to it, right? There's some risks of, are they going to get me, or are they going to quote me properly and accurately, right? Are they going to get it right? Are there going to be errors in it? You don't control that messaging, but you also have that thought leadership voice, right? So somebody, an editor has said, this is cool information, I'm going to publish it. You have that third-party credibility. And that's how it appears to the folks reading the Daily Record. Media interviews. So this is a great communications opportunity. It's cost-effective, right? It's essentially free. The conversation you're having with that editor, there's no charge, there's no exchange in funds there, right? If there is, then you're probably talking to the publisher, the advertising side of the newspaper. So just make sure you know the difference. But the reporter should not be asking you for any money to tell your story. And it's a great way just to continue to tell your brand messages. Inform, educate, entertain sometimes are key tenets of PR. One thing that I think is great with marketing is it can also support your search engine optimization, right? So you get you're mentioned in an article in the Daily Record. They include your leader's name. They maybe even include your website because they want their readers to learn more. They want to help their readers. So all of those links back to your website are increasing your profile through Google and your search engine optimization. I know Rebecca could probably talk a lot more about that, but it's an important piece, and it's also a way that shows how we're all integrated, right, on the marketing and PR side. You know, again, just a reminder, reporters are not your audience, so always keep your audience in mind as you're pitching them. You don't want to, you know, pitch something that's more client specific to a reporter who's really only covering issues in law firms, right? So what's newsworthy, right? I mean, there's the saying, if it bleeds, it leads. That's a very nice graphic visual, but if, you know, it impacts a lot of people, it's going to get a lot of press, right? So there's 9 different elements of what I consider newsworthy. I always say a rule of thumb is it'd be really nice if all of them included at least 4 of these elements. So we'll just kind of walk through this. You know, timeliness, of course, is important. You don't want to necessarily talk about something, let's say it's Mother's Day related, right? You don't want to talk about it in December. You want it to be timely. Another piece of timeliness, though, is there is on the other side something called stories that are evergreen, right? So think of an evergreen tree, and it always keeps its green needle. So there might be content that you have or a story that you have that you're like, wow, this is a great story, but it kind of stands the test of time, right? It doesn't really need to be published right now, but I'll have this in my back pocket, and I'll be able to talk to a reporter about it when the time, you know, comes that we don't necessarily have something urgent. So you have timeliness, you have proximity, right? So a lot of your services are in Maryland, which are great. So we want to talk to, you know, the Baltimore Sun about a law firm and their happenings that are going on in New York, right? So unless there's a tie to Baltimore. So always keep proximity in mind. Impact, again, this is when it impacts, you know, a large population. If there's drama, so anything around suspense or mystery, something that's really interesting, you want to, you know, it could be newsworthy. Novelty, so something new. It doesn't mean that something that you've been doing or offering for a long time can't become novel again, right? Maybe there's a new service or a new technology around it that will make it novel. Prominence, if it's high-profile people in the community, right? That could be newsworthy. Conflict, of course, is, you know, human versus animal. Animal versus human, right? There's some sort of conflict, right? Human interest. Human interest is a great way to go to media and to talk about something that's newsworthy. On the legal side, you have clients, right? They have really compelling stories. So you may be able to package that if they're willing, right? They have to be willing to talk to the media, to share their stories publicly. That could be a nice opportunity to profile them in the news or to talk about your services. And then usefulness. This is one thing that I always try to stress with all of my clients and with MVLS. You know, let's provide useful tips, helpful tips. Maybe there's also some statistics or facts or figures that a lot of readers wouldn't know about, or your audience wouldn't know about, that would be compelling. And maybe it would nudge that, you know, audience to take action. So this is just a little bit about a reporter's point of view. I do a lot of media training as well. So I pulled a few slides just to give you an understanding of, you know, what is a reporter thinking? So, you know, there's always a bias, right? There's always some sort of bias. While the journalist wants to have a balanced story, many of them, you know, they graduate journalism school believing their role is to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. So always keep that in mind when you're going and trying to share a story idea with them. They want you as experts in your field to be understanding of, they want you to understand that they offer balance, and then they want you to know more about the subject than them. With digital communications and the advent of you know, citizen journalism, a lot of us are becoming, you know, our own reporters of what we're sharing through social. You know, a lot of the newsrooms are shrinking. So where there used to be a reporter for maybe legal services, that their beat, they call it the beat, their area of expertise, may be going away. So now maybe they're covering legal services and automotive and housing and a lot of other topics, and they just can't keep up with all of the timely information. So be informed, be interesting, make sure that you're the expert, and be accessible, reliable. Make sure that you're someone that they can call and respond to them in a timely manner. This is a nice graphic of showing the difference between a conversation and an interview, and this is very relevant when we're talking about broadcast interviews and being able to get to the point quickly, because you may have a broadcast interview, so broadcast meaning radio or television, and it really is edited down to 30 seconds at most, you know. So just think of, you know, in a conversation, you're going to talk about the overall premise. You'll maybe supply some supporting facts and figures. You'll have your conclusion takeaway at the end. But in a broadcast interview, you want to get to the conclusion, you know, right away. Like, what's going on? Why are they talking to you? Then you can support it with some of the facts and talk about the overall premise, right? Bring it all together. So this is just a nice comparison of how it's a little different if you're having a conversation with a client versus having a conversation with a broadcast reporter. Okay, so getting ink. So what are some tips and tricks about getting your news in front of journalists? So the number one recommendation I always make is to actually engage with the content that they're writing, right? So read, listen, watch, follow, subscribe to their newsletters. Make sure that you know the publication. Make sure you know the writer. Follow them on social media. Know who their readers are. Again, this goes back to target audiences. And then, you know, introduce yourself as a source. Reporters are always looking for experts. So create a short bio, include your photo, and email them to introduce yourself and say, hi, I'm a lawyer in the area. These are my areas of practice. These are what I specialize in. Let me know if you're ever working on something that I can provide some expert perspective on. Here's my contact information, my cell phone, my email, here's my LinkedIn profile, let's connect. You know, introduce yourself. I used to call these Rolodex mailings. Way back when, we used to actually create a Rolodex card, a paper card, and we would mail them to journalists so that they could add them to their Rolodex of experts. Now I've added Rolodex email because they're just as good. And I was in New York for a media summit talking to a lot of editors. And these are national publications, but one of the things that they said that I found, you know, was just a nice little tip is they file a lot of the emails they get, right? So you may get a thank you email. I mean, I would have low expectations for getting a placement just from an intro email, like a Rolodex email, but the reporters they'll file that, right? So make sure that you're including keywords like your areas of practice, your contact information, because they will do searches on their emails when the time is right, and then when they are looking for your insight. So that's a great tip. Help a reporter out. So call them HAROs, help a reporter out. This is a wonderful resource, and it's completely free. So you go onto the website. This was actually started by a PR professional. His name's Peter Shankman, and he said, I'm a PR guy. Like I have a lot of PR friends, and I work with a lot of writers. Why is it so difficult for them to like connect and share sources and have that, you know, nice two-way flow of communication? So he started this, and you go to, you know, helpareporter.com and you register as either a reporter or a source. So you all would be sources, and you will get emails from them 3 times a week or 3 times a day during the week. You'll get the emails, and it will divide up content. So reporters will submit what they're looking for. So for example, let's say it's the Daily Record. They're working on a story. A lot of this is national media too. So they're working on a story about expungements in Maryland, and they want to talk to an attorney who understands expungement law. They will post, you know, Daily Record, I'm a reporter, this is my story, this is my deadline, this is what I'm looking for this expert. And then you get an email, it's a hidden email, but it goes through the Help a Reporter system, and you respond and you say, hey, I'm here, I'm happy to talk to you. Here's a few things that I can provide, and you connect. If they're interested, they'll connect with you. So, I mean, you definitely take a chance that you might not hear from anyone, but it's a great resource to get your name out there. You know, you can see a lot of national outlets are using this resource, and it's also a nice way just to keep track of kind of what the trends are as well. Harl has since been bought by Fission, so he had a wonderful idea. Now that, but it's still free. It's still free.
I've had great success with that, actually.
Yeah.
I've gone through it and I've submitted it for myself, and I think I've had about 3 placements, and one of them was Mashable, which was great. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can also just become a thought leader, right? So you're talking about the industry, about legal services. So it's nice. And then when you secure a placement, we'll talk about this in a minute about amplification, that can be content then for your website, for your social channels, for your email. One of the things that I typically recommend, you know, every organization is different, but the contributed articles and byline pieces, right? So like I had said before, that because of shrinking newsrooms, a lot of publications are really hungry for content. So if you're an expert in your field and you want to write 500, 800, 1,000 words about a specific topic without being promotional, right? You're not going to be it's not just going to be all about your services, right? It's going to be something that appeals to a larger audience. You should look at some of these publications. You know, MSBA, of course, they publish an editorial calendar online, so they will show like what topics they want to feature in upcoming issues and give you a deadline. The Baltimore Sun, this could be an op-ed piece, you know, opposite editorial, that you maybe read something in their paper and you're like, you know what, that makes me, you know, I want to contribute to this conversation. I have, you know, a platform with you. So that's also another opportunity to secure coverage. You just need to be willing to put in a little bit of time on the writing side. And I put student lawyer on here too. I wasn't sure if there were any larger firms on the line with us or in the room. You know, this could be a great way to talk about a specific challenge or issue and get it in front of young lawyers, right, who you may need help recruiting, right? You want to try and ramp up your recruiting efforts. So maybe you become a thought leader in some of the publications where those new attorneys are, what they're reading. And this all segues nicely into thought leadership. So those op-eds and the bylines can also be a source of thought leadership. So building your profile, right? One of the things that I've always worked with MVLS on is trying to make them the go-to source, right? If a reporter is working on a story about pro bono legal services, we want them to come to MVLS. We want them to know that they're a thought leader in this field. And so that's one of the things that earned media, the op-ed pieces, as well as speaking engagements and awards will help you achieve, right? So develop your story or platform and submit it to local and national conferences. So I don't know if anyone's doing that now, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. You can pick a specific platform or topic that you're passionate about and submit it, you know, to any type of conference that's geared toward your expertise. You will likely need what's called a proof of presentation. So if you've already you've already presented at another conference, make sure you get that videotape if you can. If you do any Facebook Lives, that's proof of presentation in the modern age. Keep all of that to add to your speaking profile. Awards, again, add an additional level of credibility. You can track award programs through local publications. So I just recommend creating 2 or 3 evergreen platforms. Again, evergreen meaning they aren't too timely. They can be timely, but something that you could submit and work on submitting for various conferences throughout the year. All right, so amplifying your news. So I know you've heard this already, content is king, so recycle it, right? So anytime you secure an earned media placement, you secure a news article, a broadcast interview, take it, use it through social media, build it through your LinkedIn profile, right? Your network will see updates to those. Make sure you click the tab that will share those updates with your network. Add it to your website and blog. Use it in your newsletter. Add it, just a little call out to your signature line. Link people to the article that you're quoted in. You know, if you're at a big firm, merchandise the work that you're doing to your firm's PR department or your communications department, right? They may not know what everyone is doing or where everyone is quoted, so merchandise it back and let them help to amplify your news. Ooh, how much time do we have?
So one more.
Oh.
Just have one more. Questions?
Oh, yes, questions. Good, so we have about 15 minutes remaining to dive into any questions that anyone has. I know we have several attendees on the phone.
Does anyone have any questions here? Do you want to?
I have one. When you were talking about curating the content, you need to get the author's permission to put a link on your website or whatever for doing that?
No, because you would be linking back to the original source. So you would go ahead, you would almost a little bit like an op-ed. You would be saying, check out this great article, this is talking about this, here are some really great points we think they make, and here's how we think this will affect you, and here's a link to the original article.
Yeah.
So as long as you're giving credit, that's okay.
You give the attributions.
Yep.
Yeah, with video, so if you're on a broadcast segment, you can usually purchase the clip from I know you can through the local television stations, you can purchase that clip, and then because you've purchased that, you could, upload it to your YouTube channel and give proper credit. A lot of times, if they're not on their website,
Sure.
right? So,
Thank you.
yeah.
A real quick answer to people online, yes, we will be giving you guys the presentation. So that will be emailed out to you, so you don't have to worry about taking extensive notes.
So for someone that doesn't have a already established social media account, how would you recommend building an audience on social media?
I hate to say this again, it's all about the content. So you really want to think about what is the content that your audience wants to hear. And then once you begin to post, what's a really effective way to do it is you can be tagging people you're discussing. So you could be tagging events, you could be sharing articles. Tagging is a really effective way to do it. And then also, I didn't get into this because it's a longer conversation. You can actually pay for boosted posts on Facebook. It is one of the most economical ways to expand your reach. So if you've written something that you think is really going to resonate and strike a chord with your audience, go ahead and invest $20 over a week, and it just means that your post will show up more times in the newsfeed for people. And then again, when you're doing that, you have other ways you're connecting with people, so make sure to say, guess what, we are now on Facebook, or we are now on LinkedIn. I think probably one thing I didn't get into, but I'd love to talk about is Facebook. Facebook's the biggest platform, and I always like to say, if somebody tells you they're not on Facebook, they're probably lying, because it's about 80% of internet users have some presence on Facebook, all age groups. LinkedIn is about 25%. That is a massively engaged 25%, and that's gone up from 18% a couple years ago. And when you're talking about this content you're writing for your website, there's also a publishing feature within LinkedIn. And so connecting and linking in with colleagues in your network, participating in conversations is a great way to do it.
One thing we've done, this is Bonnie, MVLS, one thing we have tried to do too is leverage our connections with the various bar associations. So when we attend events, make sure our picture gets taken with, let's say our award recipients, and they do the same. Mm-hmm. So for lawyers, I think your bar connections, MSBA has really amped up its social media presence, and website has been completely redesigned. But the Bar Association of Baltimore City, wherever you have professional connections. And if you tag the pictures, then that person will know, isn't that how it works? That person will get a copy of the post and then send it to all their friends. So it's not hard. It's just you have to be mindful.
And I think setting aside that hour a week, block that out on your calendar, and that's the time you're going to go ahead and review the posts. And again, I didn't get into this. We usually recommend just drafting out a month of content in advance. So that's 12 posts. It's not too many. That's about 12 posts. So it's not too many. And then just review it every week and see if it's still timely or see if there's any shifts you need to make. But if you're on LinkedIn and you see an article that you kind of have a thought or an opinion on and you want to get your colleagues' opinion on, go ahead and tag them on that. I'm trying to be better about, just popping onto LinkedIn for 5-10 minutes each day and just scrolling through the news feed and just participating in conversations. And you can look and see, I had posted something the other day, it had 12,000 views on LinkedIn. So that was a huge amount of people, and that was something that people were really interested in reading. And you can go in and you can look. LinkedIn will send you an email. The one differentiation on LinkedIn, your business profile versus your personal profile is still more powerful on LinkedIn. Business pages work really well on Facebook. Business pages are okay on LinkedIn, but you're really going to maximize everybody you meet out and about at networking. Go ahead and make sure you're linking in with them and having conversations.
We have a couple more questions online. Someone has asked, should you repeat the same things, articles, events, personal posts boosting your firm on all the media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn? And if so, if I post something about divorce, should I or should I not cross-post this?
So I would say think about your audience. I would think about, have you decided, would your audience be on all of those channels? Is it appropriate for the audiences across those channels? So for Redstart, we'll typically post our Facebook and Instagram posts are fairly similar. We'll shorten it a little bit on Instagram. We'll add hashtags for Instagram, but it may not be appropriate for LinkedIn that day, so we would do another alternate for that. So again, if you have 4 channels, I would think about who are those audiences on those channels.
Yeah, you could have the same piece of content, but you could slice and dice it in a way that makes it relevant for maybe clients on Facebook and peers on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's great. And then obviously Twitter, you only have 140 characters, so you've got to get really concise. You have to get really concise for that. And there's different ways you can do it. So again, we really focus on original content at Redstart for Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn for our company. However, we are also repurposing our Facebook content on Google+ and on Twitter because we have those channels.
I have a question about help a reporter out and other news outlets. What is the overall response time? So say you want to submit an article, how likely do you believe that a reporter will respond to the inquiry?
So it all depends. I wish I could say that every reporter I've ever emailed actually emailed me back. That's just not how they work, right? Some reporters get, depending on the outlet, if it's a national publication, they may get like 200 emails within like 3 hours.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so I think it's, there's like some relationship building there that has to go on. But for help a reporter out, they will always include their deadlines. So you want to make sure you meet the deadline. If you're early, I think that's even better. And provide as much information as you can. Definitely follow the directions in their note, because they will post, they'll have the lead, and you'll see, I can show everyone who's here after the webinar, but they'll show, it's like a quick overview of what they're looking for. So just make sure that you're responding on topic.
Like guided.
Theirs is guided, yeah. If you are engaging with another journalist, and let's say you're pitching something that's timely, I would make sure that you're getting that news out and giving it probably a week of follow-up, right? You want to probably get it out over email, and then you might want to call. I don't think reporters are using a lot of phone, anymore. There's a lot of the reporters I've spoken to, they said, we don't even know our password to get into our voicemail. Please don't leave us voice messages, right? So email is usually the best way. You can try and engage them on social media too, but it all depends on what your news is, what the timing is. But sometimes you may not, just setting expectations, you may not hear from them. Right?
Okay.
If they're not interested, they may not get back to you.
You have like information on how to go about, like, if I wanted to contact like a news station, like how to do that?
Yeah. I mean, they usually have all their contact information on their website, so you can go there. They sometimes will have a form, or they'll have the news desk that you can contact, the assignment desk.
Okay.
So if you're having an event, there's different ways to get in touch with them. I, would recommend going to their, usually it's like news@fox45.com, or, it's all published on their website on how to get in touch with them. And if you're looking for, advertising opportunities, or if you're looking for the assignment desk.
Okay.
Great. Sarah, I'm going to come back to your second question in a minute. I want to go ahead and answer Katrina's. She said, how do you reach audiences that are not so much on social media or not familiar? I do estate planning, elder law. So really very interesting question. There's a couple of different things you can do. So again, you want social media to be part of that mix of the website, of the digital marketing mix. So it's your website content, your email, and your social media. So somebody may not be on social media, but they may be open to gathering an email. And then again, linking that in with the PR and a news, a news presentation, that's, a news story, you want to integrate it all together. But one thing I can note for social media, I just pulled up my stats, some of the latest stats for Facebook. 72% of 50 to 64-year-olds are on Facebook, and 62% of 65 and up. So I think those numbers are larger than most people think they would be. So I think it still shows you there's a fairly significant audience in social media, and you can also look at the demographics. So perhaps you are, for elder law, you might be targeting the actual person that needs the planning, or you may be targeting their children. So maybe their children are in that 50 to 64 age range, and you want your content to be more focused on how to plan for an elderly relative. And so again, all going back to, is your audience the actual individual you're doing the planning for, or is it a family member?
And just to piggyback on what Rebecca shared, there's also senior-focused magazines in the state, and I know that we've reached out and contributed articles to those publications on behalf of MVLS. A lot of them are distributed through library systems where a lot of seniors like to go. So think about where they're going, and what they engage in, and try to reach them there. You could do some outreach at libraries, but yes, there are some free senior-focused publications too that are still in print.
And think about theme months as well. I know somebody, a lawyer that I know that does estate planning, she had a spot on Channel 13 because I think it was Autism Awareness Month, and she talked about the essentials for estate planning when you have a child who has autism. And so back to Andrea's chart, it was timely, it was probably more than 4 of those things. Mm-hmm. And then that was a really great spot. And she actually had an on-camera interview.
And sorry, one more thing for Katrina. Maryland Public Television as well, their audience skews a little bit older as well, so they do some programming there, and we've actually had some success with talking about, elder law on that outlet as well.
Great. And then Sarah, your second question, you talked about how to determine legit people to guest post on our news blog. I would look at industry leaders that you look up to. Are there email newsletters that you're reading? Are there websites you go to find out information? And after a while, if you're reading something that somebody is consistently putting out content, they've got a good reputation, you can go in, you can see what they're doing on social, what they're posting on their website, and determine, do they look like they are a thought leader? Perhaps it's somebody you've seen speak at a conference. If you've seen somebody speak on a conference, you could go ahead and approach them and say, I loved the information you shared. Would you be willing to share a guest post on our website? Any more in-house questions? I think we got to all the ones online.
How can we get in touch with you?
Our contact information for both of us is in the slide deck.
Rebecca's this.
Yeah, Andrea's is her LinkedIn. There you go. You should be able to see that. And then you can find me at redstartcreative.com. So it's R-E-D, there we go, somewhere on there, R-E-D-S-T-A-R-T creative.com. And one thing I just want to mention, I just want to do a little bit of a plug. We have a ton of free resources for marketing, and I should have said this at the beginning. Every Monday we do a Facebook Live. I didn't want to overwhelm you all talking about Facebook Live with social media. Facebook Live is really effective where we will talk about a topic, we will answer questions. We have a blog where we write a lot of DIY information. For example, we are currently writing a blog on the basics of designing a very simple email newsletter. So we'll have a lot of DIY blogs. And then we actually have our own series of free lunch and learns. I think we have 4 left this year. So again, if you go to our website, go under community, it'll tell you the remaining pieces for the year. So those are all free, no strings attached.
Well, thank you both so much for being here today and for sharing such great information. And we'll be sending out an email shortly with all the attachments and the slides and everything left over from the presentation. So everyone on the phone, everyone here say, thank you so much for joining us. Think about taking a case with MBLS if you haven't already, and if you currently are working on a case with MBLS or have recently, thank you. We have a lot of new things coming up with our case placements and a lot of exciting information to come that we hope you'll engage with. Also,
Your evaluation.
yes, complete your evaluation that you'll be sending out as well. And we have some upcoming events and future webinars too with a lot of variety of topics. So please visit our website as well and keep connecting with us. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and thank you again to our great speakers. Thank you.
And just as an added bonus, if you do take a case through MBLS, you never know where you may end up. You might be a subject of a news story. You may, we might be promoting you. So keep that in mind.
That has happened. I actually had an MBLS case where I wound up talking to Sarah Gantz of the Baltimore Sun.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my bit didn't make it to the article, but it's a good connection I have.
That's great.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.